Hello and welcome to the annual general meeting of the Data Visualization Society. I'm Amanda McCulloch and I'm the Executive Director for DVS for the past year. And I'm excited to welcome a number of our different board members who are joining us today from different corners of the world to share updates on the achievements and activities of DVS over the course of the past year, as well as to talk about some of the things coming in the future over 2022. Everyone wave, hello. We're all very excited to be here and share these updates with you. You'll have a chance to meet each of our directors individually as we go through our director updates. But first, it might be a bit helpful for us to go ahead and talk about what it is that an annual general meeting is and what we'll be focusing on today. So, an annual general meeting for the Data Visualization Society focuses on how we are meeting our goals and our mission as an organization. DVS has now been around for almost 3 years, and in the course of 3 years, we've managed to achieve a lot. We've focused on different ways that we can broaden and support the growth of the data visualization profession as a whole, to cultivate the careers of early career practitioners, to connect early career practitioners to those who are more established in the space, and to establish platforms and spaces for people to connect, share their data visualization products and tools and ideas, including things like Nightingale, Outlier, and other platforms that you'll hear more about today. The Data Visualization Society as an organization aims to collect and establish best practices, fostering a community that supports members as they grow and develop data visualization skills. And as data visualization becomes more central to our personal and professional lives, the practice of data visualization becomes ever more important, including to the general public. And so during the course of today, you'll be hearing from some of our members or some of our board members, including the board members who have served over the course of the past year. Some of these board members have been in a term as short as 6 months and achieved a lot in that time period, while others have been with us since our founding, including Amy Cecil and Molly Pettit, who are both 2 of our current board members who are outgoing and will be leaving their positions at the end of this year, but who we're grateful for all of their leadership and the work that they've done as co-founders of DVS. We also within DVS have an advisory council that supports our work, who we can go to ask questions about different ways in which we're prioritizing activities and make sure that we're spending time on the things that are most impactful to the data visualization community. You can see some of our advisory council members listed here on the right-hand side of the screen, including academics, practitioners, and leaders working in the private sector. We're excited to welcome some new advisory council members in the coming year, and you'll be hearing more about those in the future. As we go ahead and think about what we'll be doing today, we want to make sure everyone's level set on what is an annual general meeting. An annual general meeting, also known as an annual meeting, is a space where we bring together our members and other members of the broader community interested in learning about the activities, actions, financials, and the upcoming leadership of our organization. It's an opportunity for you to share more about your questions for us, as we'll leave time for questions at the end, as well as to hear about our organization. We see you, our members, as our primary stakeholders. You are the people that we are accountable to as a board and the people who we want to make sure we're serving through the various programs and activities that we're designing and implementing as a team. Your role at the annual general meeting is to hear about these updates, review priorities that you're hearing for the coming year, and to vote on the slate of candidates for open board roles. We'll be talking more about the slating process, about eligibility for voting, and where you can find your ballot as a dues-paying member later in the section. We want you to be able to share any questions that you have, so feel free to use the open comment section that you see on YouTube, or to head over to the DVS Slack, where we're also monitoring for questions. The agenda for today is to walk through first directors' updates from each of our team members, then talk about nominations and the proposed slate for 2022, to do a financial update, and I'll share some closing remarks on what we've achieved and where we're going in the future. I'm going to go ahead and remove some of my other board members so we can hear from people individually for our directors' updates. And first up in our directors' updates is going to be Amy Cecil talking about the achievements and activities of our programs team.
Sure. Hi, as Amanda said, I am the programs director for this year. So my main priority for the year was to rework and run the annual survey for the data visualization professionals for 2021. The survey was started in 2017 by Elijah Meeks, and the Data Visualization Society adopted and formalized it. This year, I had the help of an amazing committee and also included input from the community. We took a hard look at every single question on the survey to make sure it was still relevant. We did some changes, and we added a few questions to get a better feel for community needs. Josephine did an amazing job of cleaning the results and making sure they match to previous years or have annotations noting the difference, as well as releasing 3 videos to explain the data. The majority of the data is publicly available, and we're still collecting feedback on this year's survey so we can continue to improve for next year. With this data, we released a State of the Industry report with high-level findings from the survey, including some of the data that's not publicly available. You can see the link in below me, and you can easily find this on our website. The data visualization survey also served as the source for the latest challenge, where we invited community members to dig into the data. So the challenge submissions closed on Monday. And there were over 60 entries, which are currently being divvied up between the judges. So this challenge serves an important role in the community to highlight the data from the survey, as well as to give people feedback on data visualization from an amazing panel of judges. Oh, and there are also some cash prizes. Next slide. So another thing that we had running was the Buddies program, which is part of our mentorship offerings. And we had about 100 people sign up to be a buddy in the last year. This resource facilitates self-directed peer mentoring, where data visualization professionals find and pair with someone who want to share their skills. And it's available to our membership. So you have to log in as a member to find it and to sign up and join. We've continued the series of fireside chats, which are intended to be conversational in nature about specific topics and to highlight people who might not normally be the loudest voices. You can find all of the recordings on the DVS YouTube channel, which have accumulated over 8,000 views on YouTube so far. We're continuing this programming in 2022 with discussions on data visualization style guides, hiring practices for data visualizers, user testing DataVis, and non-visual representations of data. So check out the Fireside Chats webpage for more details, or if you want to be a future panelist or propose a topic for discussion. I'm also stepping back from the day-to-day of the board this year, but I'm excited to stay involved with the Data Visualization Society on a higher level as part of the Advisory Council. I'm also thrilled to support the next programs director as they continue some of this work, but also create new and exciting programs for the organization.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Amy. It's been wonderful to have you as part of the team, and I'm so glad that you've been able to have such an impact on the organization since you co-founded and kicked this all off. Amy's been also multitasking, doing behind-the-scenes work on everything from branding to marketing materials to managing the swag, which is now sitting in a box sitting behind me. I got driven back from Chicago to DC over the course of the holidays. And we'll be sad to see you go, but excited to have you continue to stay involved. All right.
Thanks.
Coming up next is our update from our events director, Molly, who has lots to share and has had a banner year on all the work that we've been doing around our annual conference. Molly.
Awesome. Thank you. So I have been the events director the past couple years, and the major thing that I have worked on is the Outlier Conference. We had our first edition of it last year, and the next one is coming up next week, February 4th and 5th. So Outlier is a virtual conference hosted by DVS. The big goals of Outlier is to create an environment that encourages attendees to make connections, learn from others, inspire others, and kind of this umbrella goal of trying to keep accessibility and inclusion at the heart of all that planning. Last year, we had over 1,000 attendees from over 60 countries. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how we went about kind of reaching the goals and some of the things that are kind of different or interesting about the conference. So Outlier's slogan is celebrating the global data visualization community. So we worked really hard to attract diverse panel of speakers spanning across time zones and multiple languages. So we did a public call for speakers. We really wanted to do this to ensure everyone had the opportunity to apply. We encourage first-time speakers by setting up a mentorship program. So we match up some of our newer speakers who want to be matched with a mentor with seasoned speakers. We also kind of reach out across geographies and encourage speakers to present in any language. So even this year, I think we have 2 talks that are not in English because we want people to be able to share what they're doing regardless of what language they're most comfortable in. Another thing is we're scheduling talks around the clock. So no matter where you live, we want you to be able to enjoy a day or close to a day's worth of conference during your waking hours. So the days are about 20 hours long with talks, discussions, and activities spread throughout. Interesting, one of the most common negative feedback we received last year was like, I wasn't able to watch everything live. I was so bummed that I missed things when I was sleeping. Why does this conference have such a long, weird schedule? But I thought this was a huge compliment, actually, because it showed we were making things people were sad to miss. And also that if someone in, for example, California is missing out on something, that means that somebody on the other side of the world is able to be a part of it. So I thought that was a big win, actually. Okay. So also one of the biggest challenges with online conferences is that of enabling connections between attendees. We didn't want to create an online conference where you could just like watch the videos and have the same experience. So to accomplish this, we didn't limit ourselves to a typical or standard conference structure. So we had a combination and still do of curated and an open structure as well. So we go back and forth. So what I mean by that is the curated section will look similar to a regular conference. And then the open sections have unconference style sessions. And there'll be several happening concurrently. They're fleshed out based on the attendee interest and created by attendees. And this is actually a sneak peek of like the conference map that we'll be using in Sparkle Spaces. Very excited. So we also believe, okay, sorry about that. Another thing is that, oh yeah, okay, so this is the perfect segue into talking about opportunities for attendees. We wanted to provide opportunities for more people for us to like shine a light on more people and for people to showcase their expertise and create discussions around topics that they care about with other attendees. So all attendees will have the opportunity to create a session, an unconference session. And so that last year, that was talks, panels, discussions, Q&As, workshops, hackathons, games. We had karaoke. It was a little bit of everything. So this allows flexibility for sessions created for and by the attendees and allows for some of those like hallway conversations that you don't often get in virtual conferences. Also, right now, people can submit lightning talks. So deadline for that is February 1st. So if you want to submit a lightning talk, go for it. 5-minute talks that'll be shared at the conference. And also, for the first time, we will be doing a poster session, like a exhibition hall as well. So more information is coming out on that this week. And just another space where you can kind of share cool things you're working on. Additionally, we felt it was really important to create a pricing structure that's accessible. So we have like a few different prices, and we also have the option to reach out and email us if you don't think you can actually afford any of these options and you need a free ticket. So we wanted to reach a global audience, and we just didn't feel it was realistic to assume that the same pricing would work worldwide. And so this felt like a very important piece of accessibility. Also, like to create a great event, one needs money. So we've already got some really great sponsors and we're still accepting more. So just wanted to raise that in case anyone out there is interested in sponsoring Outlier. It helps us to pay for speakers, as well as translations and captioning services, tech platforms, helps us to supply free tickets to those who need it, etc. So please reach out if interested. And just one last thing, I want to do a shout out to the events committee who has put in a lot of time and effort into creating this. It wouldn't be possible without them. So yeah, Outlier is happening again next week. Get your tickets. It's going to be a lot of fun. An amazing lineup of speakers, very excited about it. And then one last thing is just, and this will be mentioned, I'm sure, later as well. I am stepping down. I've had a great time as events director, but I think it's time to pass it on to someone else. So that is an opportunity that will be available should people want to apply for that. And more of that will be coming out soon. And that's it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Molly.
Yeah.
I don't think that Outlier would not have been what it was if it wasn't for you and the leadership and vision that you had last year, nor had the energy that it had. And for anyone who attended Outlier last year and saw Molly emceeing sessions for what seemed like 20 straight hours and still bringing the same energy and glitter backdrop to Outlier at the end of her workday as at the beginning, I think is a huge testament to what you've been able to build and create. And I've just been thrilled that we've been able to, as part of what we'll talk about later in terms of sustainability and scalability, we have been able to bring on more paid support, like having a dedicated Outlier director this year. And so my hope is that that's a little bit of an encouragement for folks considering if an events director role might be of interest. This is not something that anyone goes alone, and the incredible volunteer events committee and then some of the paid support, I think, has been really critical to helping to make this happen.
Yes, 100%.
100%. All right, coming up next is our wonderful publications director, Jason. Welcome, Jason. Jason has been doing an incredible job this year with everything Nightingale, and I'm excited to give you an opportunity to hear his updates about what the publications team has achieved this year.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? Jason Forrest here. So, wanted to start this presentation with the simple question, what happened this year? So much that we've done. I think like all of you, we've all been juggling all the pressures of work and home and pandemic and mental health. It's just been a really wild ride. To that end, we've been really very fortunate to get quite a lot done. So I actually have a few slides to run through. Want to move on to the next one? Yeah, but first stats, right? We're DataVis. We've had almost half a million views there, 456,000. That's a combination of our new .com site and Medium. We've featured 109 authors in 2021. I posted the two charts at the bottom, mainly just to show you the cadence of publishing, which we have been providing. It's been just a huge amount of content. And then on the right, just to show you that we've actually, naturally had a dip after launching at the beginning of June, but really had a lot of great progress over the year. So looking at great trends there. If we want to go to the next one, please. There we go. So the first big bit of news that we had is that we at this time last year, we announced a print magazine, and actually at Outlier. It created a whole lot of enthusiasm, which we were really, really excited about from the community. And, I think, hindsight being 2020, people did warn us how much work it was going to be, but we realized that it really was a whole lot. The reason for going in this kind of non-traditional path into print was really not only to kind of fulfill the mission of expanding the discourse on data visualization for the community, but also just to create new opportunities for Nightingale and to try to find some new ways of building content and then syndicating it. This has created a lot of opportunities for us across platform, which we'll go into in the next slide. So one of the first things we realized is that we really need to get off of Medium. We pivoted away from Medium for a bunch of reasons, mainly really so that we could really kind of own our identity, our brand, and really control what we wanted to do. That meant really standing up a WordPress-based .com site, NightingaleDVS.com. That meant that we reconceived our branding with Julie Brunet, our creative director. And really, it helped us to revitalize our committee. So we have a team page. There's actually so many people on the team now that I don't think I want to get into everyone's names. We'll have a slide that we'll show, or a link to show. Oh, there it is. Boom. Look at that. But it's been really wonderful. We've had so many meetings, and it really helped us to get back to community as the foundation for everything we do. It's also allowed us to really expand the type of content that we started to focus into. So, for example, the early career 3 questions with reviews, DataVis reviews, book reviews, classes, all kinds of stuff. And we're very excited, particularly about the Kids Table, which is our new avenue for exploring DataVis for children. So if we want to move into the next one, we also, in the act of standing up the website, this also helped us to pivot into what is the messaging? How are we going to kind of grow this thing? How are we really going to figure out how to leverage our community for support? Really, one of the biggest things that one of our biggest advances as a group this year was in understanding who we are. Right, and really, I wanna have highlighted here Amanda for her inspiration and really urging the publications committee to go for a bigger goal of subscribers, 1,000 in 6 weeks. This allowed us to basically come up with a marketing plan, and it really gave us a catalyst to collaborate more equitably with operations, membership, and communications. And it's really been hugely successful. We did make it. Woo! And, you know, it also really helped to support the membership drive of DVS as a whole. We kind of knew this going in, but it's really, you know, very important for us to find a way to perpetually point everything we do at Nightingale back to the larger community of the DVS. So if we want to move on to the next one. So we are currently in design. I know that everyone is asking for when we're going to get their first copy. We are so delighted with the design house coming. We had a 8:30 meeting this morning, and gosh, the designs are so awesome. We're featuring 40 articles. It's a mixture of new content, versions of published content, and also some special spotlights, data visualizations, and features. The theme is on culture, so we're taking a very wide lens of that. I think that we will be, hopefully, you'll be very happy with the direction we've taken with it. We had hoped to get it for you next month. It's really not going to be until March. We're working hard. And I tell you, one of the things that, and I'll follow up with this on the next slide, which is that basically this has helped us to establish so many processes. And I really want to leave with my time here today by just also being transparent that we learned a lot this year. Not everything's been awesome. Like, we've had some great support, some great achievements, but you know, advertising and sponsorship has been very difficult for us. I just want to be totally transparent and just be vulnerable and say that it really caused us to pivot away from focusing specifically on sponsorship and advertisement into different ways for community support, such as subscriptions. I think we have some new ideas to explore in the next year. You know, our team is pretty big. Again, we have the Our Team tab on the website. Really want to call out Claire Santero and Mary Aviles, our editors. Claire is our content editor, and Mary would be our managing editor. Julie Brunet is our creative director, and Chuck Burke did a whole bunch of work with us to set up the site, the WordPress site. There's a whole bunch of editors and designers that are currently hard at work. So again, I don't want to diminish their impact, but it's taken a lot of people, and you know what? We're going to need more. So, you know, it's a good thing to grow, but at the same time, there's a lot of challenges in finding the right balance between funding, volunteering, keeping that momentum up, and kind of growing organically. We've learned a whole lot about the needs for how to create content for different types of media. We've also indexed specifically, oops, it looks like I have a hanging and there, on newsletter, of which I want to also give Claire Santoro a shout out. She writes that for us every 2 weeks and has really helped us to grow the team and our vision and of course, subscriber base pretty dramatically. And then the last thing just wanted to index on is that expectation setting has been a challenge, right? We know that we have had an ambitious set of goals. You know, the good news is that we have had so much support, not only from the DVS board, from you as a community. Whenever people field us emails, we're happy to say, listen, we just don't have a great answer for that just yet. But thank you for helping us to communicate better and to help you understand all the different type of work that goes into bringing you Nightingale. So I just want to wrap up by saying thank you so much for your support. It's been amazing. I cannot wait to get the first issue of the print edition of Nightingale to you. And we got all kinds of crazy plans for 2022. So thank you so much.
And Jason, thank you. I mean, you have taken and built out an entire data visualization publication as a volunteer. Jason is a volunteer. Like the rest of the board, Jason is a volunteer who puts endless hours and time and nights and weekends into making Nightingale happen and building the team around him. So Jason, I mean, when people think of DVS, I think a big part of what they think of is Nightingale. And that's a huge testament to the work that your team has done this year. So thanks to you, but also to the shout outs to all of your team.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up next, we're handing it over to Julia. Julia is our partnerships director. Julia has been hanging out with the DVS team like me since the early days. So she has put in a quality 2.5, almost 3 years, spending time to go ahead and build out partnerships and all kinds of interesting, cool things at DVS. So I'm going to hand it over to Julia to give us some updates on what the partnerships team has been up to this year.
Thanks so much, Amanda. Yeah, it's kind of crazy reflecting on how long it's been. It's been such an amazing opportunity. I wanted to share 3 things that we kind of did in the last year. So in the spring, we launched something called Pollen, which is a way for everybody to visualize the various Slack channels that we have on the DVS Slack. We have so many of them. I think sometimes it can be a little difficult to navigate. And so this became kind of a resource for folks to go and explore and actually join the channels if you're already signed in. So, and that's available, of course, on the website, and there's a link to it. But yeah, it was an interesting kind of thing, and understanding that it became a little bit part of the onboarding process for new folks to be able to, of course, since this is a data visualization society, be able to visualize the channels rather than just have a drop-down list. So it was fun to create, and it's good. We can move on. And summertime, of course, with the launch of memberships, one of the most important things for us was to create partnerships. We ended up, reaching out to folks that we thought would be great partners for us to offer various discounts to their products and their services. And that door is not closed. So if you're listening to this and you would like to partner with us, please, please, please reach out. You can either email partnerships@dvs.org or, find us on Slack, DM me. We'll definitely have a conversation around getting a partnership set up and an offering to our members. But these are the folks that then ended up joining us in the summertime. And I think actually 1 or 2 more joined since then. So yeah, hoping to grow this list for sure. And finally, the kind of, I guess, bigger piece that we worked on in the fall and released in December was the jobs board. And, that, of course, came about with wonderful Lynn, who ran a jobs board for a while, and then, kind of was, in favor of handing that off to us. And so my team, which also consisted of Alex Royston and Tim Hewlin, who are on the partnerships committee, we worked together in putting together a jobs board. And so we did phase 1. And we actually have, of course, a little tab there that's, that says feedback, and encourage everybody who, has something that you would like to, improve or suggest. It would be great to hear that feedback, because there is going to be a phase 2 build of this. And we already have, a number of suggestions that we have put on our nice to have list for phase 1, and definitely something that we would like to offer in phase 2 and expand. But since launching in December, this is at over 70 job listings, which is pretty great. So very, very excited to, hand this off to the incoming partnerships director, and definitely will kind of, help out and facilitate the onboarding of the new person as needed, and in terms of growing this jobs board and making it something that is really utilized by the data visualization, community members and anybody at large that wants to post positions, and of course search. So I think finally for me, as Amanda mentioned, it's kind of crazy. I've been, I guess, part of the first, 6 folks when it was the founders, Elijah, Molly, and Amy, and then Amanda and Jason and I remember thinking about bylaws like 3 years ago almost. And so it's kind of crazy to think that 3 years just flew by like that. I am leaving the board. I'm very excited to have an incoming person. I'm not sure, if I'm allowed to mention them yet. I guess they are on the slate. But can I say who?
Sure. I mean, you can share our proposed candidates, of course, and we'll be talking more about those in the nominations and slate.
Yeah,
they're live on the website as well.
Yeah. I couldn't remember. I've been a little bit busy with work, but definitely very excited that one of my committee members, has applied for my position. And that's exciting to me because my committee members have been very involved for the last 2+ years. So this is not somebody who is brand new to this, which is also welcome, but this is somebody who definitely knows the ins and outs of this role. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to stay involved as a community member, which I'm actually really looking forward to, and participate in, some of the fun creative aspects of DataVis, which I also love very much. And potentially explore maybe hosting some Twitter spaces, something I do a lot for our other various endeavors that I think maybe our community can benefit from. That's it from me. Thanks so much.
Well, and I will say, Julia has jumped on a lot of these different pieces. I think we made the push for the jobs board at the end of the year. I mean, the mobilization around that started more than halfway through last year, in the sense of finally kind of getting a platform built out. And the fact that your team was able to build that out and launch it and get such traction in the short period that it's been live is amazing. And also, Julia does nudge people like me to think more about more novel spaces to communicate with folks. Having hosted the only Twitter spaces that we've had so far as DVS have all happened through and because of Julia, who is an ace MC, and being able to host Twitter spaces type events. So Julia, thank you for all of your time.
Here's 2 more of those.
I keep seeing more and more of them pop up, especially in the data community space. And I'm like, Julia was right. There is an interest in this. I just, on my side, I'm like, more platforms. So we are going to go ahead and tee it off and over to our early career director, I believe, Simran. Over to Nina. Over to Nina next. So over to Nina for our membership director. So Nina, welcome to the stage.
Hello.
Nina has been our membership director, and our first membership director. This was a new role this year. So Nina has had the wonderful, wonderful gift of being able to not only do this job, but originate what this job looks like. So Nina, excited to have you chat more about what the big achievements have been in your role this year.
All right. Thanks, Amanda. So hi, everyone. I'm Nina, the membership director for this year. So for 2021, the main focus area for the membership department was around paid membership. So as you may know, since DVS launched in 2019, the organization was able to grow due a lot of the help of our volunteers and Patreon supporters. And we're very grateful for all of you for supporting DVS throughout the first couple of years. However, as we grow and evolve as a professional association, we need to shift the way we operate in order to grow in a more sustainable way. And so the launch of the different membership level, as well as your support as paid member, helps makes that possible. So since we launched paid membership in June 2021, we have over 600 members who signed up as a paid member. And the new membership structure also allows us as an organization to better serve our members by giving access to different resources and the ability to manage your own profile in a centralized location. And the launch of paid membership was really a collaborative effort across different departments. So I just want to give a huge shout out to the rest of the board as well for helping us with this effort. And aside from the membership launch, we also collaborated across different departments to make sure our membership levels are applied and integrated properly across the board. So just making sure that the members have the right access level to different initiatives, working with events, programs, and publications, and setting up that infrastructure on our website. And aside from that, we also developed an internal membership dashboard that we use internally to provide the internal team with a high-level overview of our members, their membership status, as well as the regional makeup of our members. And then in terms of 2022, with having all of that different infrastructure and processes set up in the previous year, this year we will focus more around how we can best serve our members. So the first thing that we have as part of our initiative is launching the DVS affiliated groups. So we are going to work on partnering with local data visualization group as well as different topical groups that currently exist and provide support for them to better engage with our members at a topical and regional level. We have started some of that communication last year and excited to continue and launch the DVS affiliated program in the upcoming weeks. And we also are looking to have more collaborations with DVS members, partners, and other departments to make sure that we are delivering and prioritizing membership features that are highly valuable to our members. And lastly, we also just want to improve our understanding of our members. As I mentioned previously, we currently have a very high-level overview of our member data, but we are looking to expand more on that so we can really understand what our member want, and as well as share it to inform other departments and DVS partners so that they can better understand the performance of their different initiatives. And if you're interested in supporting some of these efforts and have any ideas or feedback to improve the membership experience, please feel free to reach out to my email that is listed below on the slide. I'm always happy to connect and learn more about what you're interested in getting out of the DVS membership.
Thank you so much, Nina. It is great to hear about the progress on that front. And I cannot overstate how grateful we are for those who have opted into paid membership at different levels. Similar to Outlier, we have a sliding scale of membership levels, starting with an income conscious level you can opt into at currently $20 a year, $25 a year, that allows you to go ahead and opt into that level no matter what your background is. It's designed for students, people working in nonprofits, people in low and middle income countries. But anyone who needs it is welcome to opt in at that level. And we're grateful for the support we've had. I also would point to the fact that all of the work that happened to build out the member space environment, which is our gated member community portal that's on our website now, is all thanks to the behind the scenes work of Nina. So it's not just about launching and picking some membership tiers and mobilizing benefits, but building out the tech ecosystem within our Squarespace environment that allowed us to create gated member pages so you can access your paid member benefits. I would also nudge people that if you have not converted from signing up on a Google form for DVS over to actually registering inside of MemberSpace, it is a space where you can go ahead and you yourself can change your email. That is our most requested feature, is my work email has changed and I need to update my email on your mailing list. You can make those changes, and you can also opt into things like being on our mailing list if there are opportunities to participate in academic research around data visualization. So there are great benefits to you for opting into that, even just as a free member, leveling up over into being part of that member space environment so that you have more control and can engage in our DataVis community. And all of that is thanks to the work that you've done this year, Nina. So thank you so much for all of the work that you've done and all of the leadership that you've taken for making sure these things keep moving forward.
Thank you.
Next up, we're going to welcome Simran, our early career director, to the screen. Simran has been one of, I think, our most active board members, maybe behind Jason, on Slack, going ahead and keeping conversations happening in the early career space. And I'm thrilled to hand the stage over to you to talk about what you've been up to with the early career community this year.
Thank you so much, Amanda. So this was the first year that DVS had a early career board director in this particular format. And I chose to focus this year on building community and fostering a sense of belonging. And I'm so grateful for all the early career folks who have participated in our discussions, in our Connect Early Career channel, who've asked for help, and so on. This year, we also launched our Early Career Corner profile series to create a culture of peer mentorship and encourage learning from each other's experiences. I think a lot of us in the early career community, myself included, are in that stage of, what am I doing with my life? Is there ever going to be a point where I feel like I've figured things out? How do I build skills and so on? So I'm really grateful for the conversations that I've had through this series and for the people that have shared their experiences. This year, we've also been experimenting with different programs geared towards early career members, such as the Careers in Data Journalism panel that we hosted, or a meetup we did called Early Career Connect. And I think 2022 is about learning from all the conversations with members that we've had this year, and also the challenges that we've had, and really trying to incorporate that into continuing our 2021 work, but also trying to expand our offerings for our members. I think one of the biggest challenges we face in the early career community is there's obviously an endless amount of programs that you can offer, from skill building workshops to career fair to office hours and so many different things. So I think this year is really going to be about creating a practice of valuing consistency over intensity and making sure that we really hone in our scope of the programming that we do offer. And if you want to influence the direction of that at all, I'm always open for feedback. I'm always open for if you have any ideas or if you think there's something we can be doing better. You can always DM me on our Slack or reach out by email. And we're also going to be recruiting for our early career committee soon. So keep an eye out if you would like to be part of that conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for all of your leadership and your work that you've done with our team this year. It has been so fun to both have you as someone mobilizing great activities for our community, but also being and bringing a strong voice to our board in terms of ideas and suggestions around how we can build not just a community inclusive to early career folks, but more broadly to build a more inclusive data visualization society and community. So thank you for all of the work that you do in that space, Simran. All right, bringing to the stage next is our communications director. Communications director Richard joined us this year, bringing his expertise running a data visualization firm outside of his work at DVS. And I have been delighted to see the ways in which he's been able to level up our communications game. So I'm going to hand the stage over to Richard to talk about comms, DVS, and what is coming as we look down the path into 2022.
Thank you, Amanda. And if my screen's a little bit dark, I'm based in the UK where it's pretty dark out there, but fortunately I've got some lightage. I came into the communications role back in April. So first of all, I'd love to give a big shout out to Bill Shander for passing the baton over to me. And yeah, a very smooth handover. And I'm just very appreciative for all the efforts Bill has put into DVS communications and brand at that point. So talking of brand, similar to what Jason mentioned earlier, we felt it was really important to understand kind of who we are as a society, the needs of the member base and what we offer in line with it. And what you're seeing here is a brand wheel that we've put together. And it's the first time that we're presenting this. For us, it embodies the fabric of the DataVis society. And if we know the very essence of the community, then it means we just know our people, our culture, and the values that we hold dear. And I guess if we know this, what's really good from a kind of both internal perspective and to the member base, it just means that every activity that we do, every topic, channel, format, and every message, it all can ladder up to those needs, those values, those things that that essentially, yeah, we're all really, really keen on. So it keeps us honest, consistent, and maintains that authenticity as a society. The brand wheel helps us to separate out, as you'll see from the kind of like the top is the functional needs, and then also at the bottom with the emotional needs and desires of members. So yeah, I'd love to share this openly on Twitter to get the community's feedback. It is a work in progress. So we'd love to almost kind of crowdsource this with the member base to refine it and help it to be the guiding light for departments and committee members to utilise going forward. So in terms of successes last year, I've got 3 here that I felt really kind of stood out. And the first one was the membership launch strategy, which happened, yeah, about 4 to 8 weeks into the communication director role. We're really, yeah, proud of the success, yeah, from how we all, I think, integrated in departments. We had these key kind of content pillars that we thought about around transparency, accessible membership tiers, which I know that 1 or 2 members have touched on, and bringing the voice of the society out through our actual very members. And so, yeah, we launched a campaign, you may remember, called The Society That Stands For, and then we'd ask members of the community, what do you feel the society stands for? And we had some really interesting answers from kind of around diversity and connection, and yeah, experts within DataVis, and our paid tier member launch really did surpass expectations, and we're just really, yeah, really happy about the kind of transparent nature of communications that was kept throughout that membership moment. The second thing is around amplification support across kind of like what we call kind of like hero initiatives, those key events that we have each year that are kind of, yeah, growing year on year. So at this point, from around about September, we hired a part-time communications manager to ensure that we could be both strategic, but also support the tactical stuff and the amplification that we've got around the many moving parts of the organisation. So for me, there was no one better than someone who's already kind of integrated in the community and is full of energy. So a big shout out to Jane Zhang. She's been a huge support for me and I think all of our departments. and also has some great ideas. So I'm looking forward to working closely with her throughout the year. We set some unified goals for both Nightingale Print and the State of the Industry Survey. And I think one of the key things we try to do is make sure that we've got what we've got there in the message is value-driven content, thinking about it specifically from the members. Where are the benefits and how can we really kind of dial that up in our communications? And yeah, we try to really kind of spark engagement from that, but we have to give much of the credit, I think, to Amy and Jason's team. Although, yeah, the net outcome was that we were just delighted to meet each goal and surpass that from the previous year. And then finally, the third thing was aiming to get some structure in place when it comes to the communications, ensuring we've got really early alignment when we're having briefings with different board members and departments, proactive opportunities, and just being able to kind of achieve more with the tools that we have. So there's a list of tactical items there that you can see on the right-hand side that we've now got in place. This is just an example of the campaign I mentioned for the launch, the society that stands for, that you may have seen across our social networks. And then we move into some communication channels. So yeah, going into some of the stats, really, really good, I think, organic growth. That's what I'm really delighted about, is that none of this has been paid media. This has all been on owned or what we call earned channels through, yeah, the department's capabilities. Really, really strong growth across really all channels, but I think especially on YouTube. And I think that has something to do with Outlier, and also I think the value of having lots of feature-rich content, very accessible, and it kind of, I think, mimics a little bit around our member base, that we have got a good proportion of members that are kind of new to DataVis and maybe coming from different areas of expertise, different topic areas, and actually really curious and interested. So that's something that we see as a huge opportunity and something that we'd love to focus on for the year ahead. And yeah, I'd say maybe that's probably enough on that, but yeah, I would love for you to share.
Let's see.
The deck.
Oh, here's our areas of focus. There we go.
Brilliant. Thank you. So yeah, so for the year ahead now, we've got three key areas of focus. The first one is that we want to build the brand architecture, ensuring that the next major activities on the roadmap are intrinsic to DVS and are linked in a way that gives you, the community, really the best experience. So an example of that is if you're a new member to DVS, but you also want to sign up to the Gale newsletter, how can we ensure that that happens across one experience? So you don't have to opt in again. So it's those scenarios that we're really keen on thinking about and ensuring that we get that kind of that consistency. So we're in the world of, if you look at the example, that's what we call kind of like a sub-branded house, how Apple do things. There's a hybrid house like Google, or we might even think about having what we call an endorsed brand. So yeah, we're having discussions at the moment, but we think that's going to be really, really useful so that we get that kind of consistency and also equity. So when we have the next big outlier type of event or next type of survey or whatever that shape be, we just know that, yeah, there's some equity that's being built over time that can help support those efforts. The second thing we're really keen on doing is making sure that our member base have more personalization. You know, we know as a very small, growing organization, it's really kind of being one message for all. Fortunately, you know, we all love data visualization, and it has been relatively pinpointed. But I think as we're seeing this really explode, we know now that, you know, people are yearning for very specific information within their topic area, might be within their region, might be within very specific skills. It might be that actually you only want a very kind of short snippet of information and want to be communicated to you once a month, or actually you want to be really in the know on a daily basis. So these are all things that we're aiming to optimize, and we really start with understanding, right, who are our core people, and the diagram there is an example of some of those core, what I guess we call personas. But we've looked into kind of, user pains and three key areas really is we're finding people either want to connect with the community, learn things, or to be able to contribute. So yeah, we'd love to get some feedback on that as time goes by. And then thirdly, really just kind of touching on, I think what Nina mentioned as well around the affiliated groups and the topic areas, is that we feel like there's an opportunity there to do some really decent targeted PR to help promote data visualization really as a discipline towards those different sectors, and also to extend it out to individuals so that they've got an opportunity to be spotlighted through our own PR efforts. And that's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Richard. And I know I always learn so much from having someone who is a dedicated communications and marketing professional being on our board. So I appreciate the ways in which you've leveled up all of our comms this year, building on that foundation that Bill and our board built from when we started out. So thank you for all of that work this year. I would love to welcome to the stage Erica Gunn, who is our amazing education director, but unfortunately she actually has a work conflict today. So I will be providing her update on her behalf today. So Erica is our education director. She stepped into this role to close out the remainder of a term, a 2-year term. So she was actually only on the board for 6 months and has just done an exceptional job in that time to go ahead and lay the foundation for a lot of future educational programming and work, and take a very data-driven approach to answering this question of who is education for. And oftentimes inside of DVS, it often felt as though we were talking about education specifically for kind of people being educated, the people who wanted to learn, and the educators, the teachers and trainers and academics who were teaching and training on data visualization. And we really want to reimagine, and based on analysis she did looking at the annual State of the Industry survey data and slicing and dicing information from questions about specifically how people learn data visualization, thinking about the broader community of learners that DVS can serve: teachers, students, beginners, experts, practitioners, researchers, people who have different needs around education and data visualization. And so as she explored that data, she was able to dive into that. She wrote an excellent Nightingale article that summarizes a lot of those key themes that we'll add a link to in the comments, that talks a lot about the themes she found in analyzing what the educational needs of the DataVis community writ large are. Through that, she defined different 2021 projects and focused on curating existing materials for immediate use that would focus first on our early career audience, who are a big audience for DVS as folks are looking for researchers. And as part of that process, it talks about different kind of themes and questions. So who's out there and what do we need to know more about their needs and who those people are that we're serving with our educational tools? So she went ahead and conducted various different analysis activities, again, looking at the survey data, looking at career tagging and experience and the tools that get used by different DataVis practitioners, hosting an open topics and DataVis conversation, asking for input about educational programming and needs within the DataVis community, hosting office hours, and has been planning for an upcoming Nightingale series on data exploration. That's part of a lot of her writing that she's done on Nightingale that focus on sharing specific topics and pieces of information that are useful for learning DataVis. She also has been exploring ways that we can better answer the question, how do I learn more about data visualization and build my data visualization skills? If you've been with us for a while or spent much time on our website, you've probably browsed our resources page a little bit, which is a smattering of various different community source Google documents with things like recommended workshops or books. And as we think about the things that people are looking for and need, we want to better define and provide more curated resource pages and learning paths around things like color systems, design systems, chart taxonomies, style guides, and more. And Erica has been working to lay the foundation to develop and publish those kind of resource pages and environments to share more with our community. And last, thinking about what careers are available in DataVis. This is a common question both for entry-level practitioners, but also for established professionals who maybe started out perhaps as a freelancer or started out doing data visualization as part of a BI analyst job. And focusing on these various different career portraits and career families, really, of the different kinds of career paths that exist in DataVis. One of the best parts of the Data Visualization Society is that we provide a centralized home for connection and collaboration across data artists, data journalists, BI developers, dashboard designers, freelance DataVis developers. And we want to continue to be that home in that space and to provide more information for folks looking at what those career paths could be. So looking forward to be developed in 2022 and beyond, Erica has been focusing on how we lay this foundation, focused on our early career folks. Now we want to go ahead and better understand our community needs and support structures in order to support our more experienced professionals, creating space for the experts to share with us what they're looking for in a community and professional society like Data Visualization Society, thinking more about how we curate resources around how we teach data visualization and providing centralized resources and use cases and modules for teaching where appropriate, collaborating more with our academic community. And then thinking about how we kind of measure success as an organization in terms of achieving our educational goals through a research hub, publication sharing, more research communities, collaborations. And you'll see that there's lots of space in these bullet points for your ideas. And if you're interested, you're welcome to email Erica at education@datavisualizationsociety.org, get in touch with her on Slack, or even consider joining the education committee as the committee applications open again this year. So huge thanks to Erica for stepping into this role and the work that she's done to really build out a foundation for what education is going to look like going into the future. With that, the next person I'm going to bring up onto our stage is Sarah. Sarah was on the initial DVS board and was our early career representative. And this year stepped into this role as the knowledge director. And Sarah, I'm happy to hand the stage over to you to talk about the achievements in the knowledge management space for DVS this year.
Thanks, Amanda. Yeah, so I've been the knowledge director since April, and you probably haven't heard that much about what I've done because most of that work has been in the background. Could you change to the slide? So my main focus in the past months has been to sort of build sustainable systems for DVS that allow us to function more efficiently behind the scenes, but also to be able to be more transparent about how things actually work in the background. As such, I've collaborated with Amelia, our operations director, on building out internal processes and systems. And then the big project has been working on setting up a knowledge base for DVS. So the first step for that was defining requirements for what we actually need for our internal documentation, as well as for sort of more external and member-facing documentation, and researching different software solutions and ways of sort of structuring this. And then with the support of the Operations and Knowledge Committee, we set up the initial version of this knowledge base and have been working on creating content for that and compiling resources over the last couple of months. So one of the big goals for 2022 is going to be to finalize this first version and launch it to you, the members, hopefully within the first quarter, so by the end of March. And then throughout the year, we're going to continue improving our internal documentation, but also continue working on the member-facing part of this knowledge base and find ways to involve members in creating content for this, compiling resources, keeping things updated. So yeah, hopefully you will see more about this soon. And if you're interested in supporting this, you should consider joining the Operations Knowledge Committee. And you're always welcome to reach out on Slack or email me.
Thank you, Sarah. I think sometimes folks don't realize how much action happens behind the scenes to keep organizations like DVS running, and you and our operations director and other functional roles on our board really are what make that happen. So thank you for all of your time and commitment this year. All right, so I do have one more update that I'll be providing on behalf of one of our board members, our DE&I director, or as she likes to frame it, DEIB, including belonging director, Kamodi Goda, KG for short, won't be making it today because this is in the middle of the night for her, where she's based in Singapore. So I'll be providing some brief updates on her behalf on our activities related to DEI in DVS this year. We'll also be talking about these themes a bit more as we talk about our nominations process and some changes we'll be making in the coming year. So KG flagged 3 key accomplishments from 2021, including working closely with the DVS board to prioritize and further evolve our policies and practices related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you recall, this is the first year that we've had a dedicated DEI board member, and KG has brought a lot of expertise, having worked in an advisory capacity around diversity and inclusion in other organizations, with great connections to organizations that can help us support this kind of work. One of the most striking things she's said to me as she's coached me in different ways in my executive director capacity is that structure and structured approaches that are clearly communicated can actually create more inclusive processes and approaches. And that's something that we've talked about a lot, especially around our nominations process and leadership funnel. Second, she focused on developing a better understanding of DVS membership beyond the United States. As I mentioned, she herself is based in Singapore, and she's been working to reach out to and get to know local community members and other DVS members outside of the US. And finally, advising and supporting the nominations committee this year, including writing up a number of different guidance documents around inclusive interviewing processes, helping with scoring matrices for different candidate approaches, and being really critical to helping us think through the ways in which we can create the most inclusive nominations process, and advising on what changes we can continue to consider going forward into the future. In 2022, she's very focused on further evolving an inclusive culture across all of DVS's global digital community spaces. For example, we know that we only operate most of our community events and spaces in English. Outlier is one of the great examples of where we've tried to be more inclusive around language. And we'd love, as we think about creating more locally affiliated chapters and groups, to create more space for conversation and for engagement in the languages and in the spaces that make the most sense for local folks. Second, encouraging and supporting diverse, equitable, and inclusive leadership talent pipeline and development. And we'll talk a bit more of that in our nominations process. And finally, establishing stronger ties to local DataVis communities and groups around the world, collaborating with our membership director and our membership goals of establishing more of these locally run groups. If you have any interest in getting involved in this space, please feel free to reach out to KG directly on Twitter or on Slack or on email, or join the DEI committee, and you'll see those opportunities for committee membership spinning up shortly. Last, but certainly not least, I want to welcome to the stage Amelia, who is our operations director this year. She has done a tremendous job helping to get a lot of different pieces of the puzzle together for DVS behind the scenes, taking over a lot of financial management work, and I think setting us up to have an even more stable, scalable, sustainable infrastructure as an organization. So Amelia, I will leave it to you.
Thanks, Amanda. Hi, everyone. My name is Amelia. I'm the operations director. I took over the second half of Amanda's term when she transitioned over to be the executive director. And as you've probably gleaned from all of the other updates from board members, it was a very operations heavy year for everyone. And although a lot of my work is pretty behind the scenes, it is also that kind of cross-functional collaborative nature of operations is pretty exciting in 2021 with all of these things starting up for DVS. So some of the things that I worked with the board and committee members on this year was working with Sarah, knowledge director, to start to document some of our internal processes, starting up and we also combined our committees, so operations plus knowledge committee, because it just seemed like a natural alignment. I was behind the scenes helping folks out launching paid membership. That was, I think, pretty much a board-wide effort, as well as all of the exciting things going on with Nightingale in 2021. I would say my main independent project was streamlining our accounting and payment system. And thank you to all of you very gracious Nightingale contributors who helped me, willingly or not, test out that new payment system. And so in 2022, I think what was made clear in 2021 is that we are starting to outpace our current operational systems. And so we are consciously investing in more support. We are bringing on a full-scale accounting services partner. So that will free up a lot of time and space for the operations role to focus increasingly on strategy in 2022 and going forward. We also have a need to work more closely with KG and the DEI committee to build out recruitment and hiring practices and continue to build that structure into not only our nominations process, but as we start to increasingly bring on more contractors and someday pay like full-time staff, that will be very important. So if those things sound like interesting projects to work on, please feel free to reach out to me. by email or on Slack. We are looking for an operations director, and that application is open for about another week. And I will hand it back to Amanda for now. I will talk to you all during the financial update.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amelia. And it has been delightful to have you picking up and supporting all those operational pieces. I know the heavy lift that exists there. So let's go ahead and talk through our proposed board slate, which is a key function of our annual general meeting, and talk through who we've proposed and the process through which we got there. In case you're not aware, a slate is where you have a group of candidates being put forward for a vote instead of having up or down elections on individual candidates. The goal here for DVS and using this process is to work towards a more diverse and inclusive process of selecting our leadership, to try to bring voices who otherwise may not win a popularity contest per se onto the DVS board because of their experience, knowledge, and capabilities in terms of their ability to execute and do incredible work in these different DVS board roles. So we do use a slating process inside of DVS as part of what was founded in our bylaws for our board elections, which happen each year, with half of the board turning over each year. This year, the nominations committee expanded in size compared to last year and included a mix of both DVS member representatives and current DVS board members. We included a balance of DVS current board members who are not actively seeking a new role or a continuation of their term in order to have more of an opportunity for our candidates to ask us questions about what the roles were like and what the opportunity was and whatever questions they might have about their responsibilities if selected for the board. This allowed us to have a broader conversation about the ways in which these roles really are volunteer roles and jobs that do take a lot of additional time, and to allow us to better answer those questions. So huge thanks to everyone who's on the committee, but especially our DVS member representatives, Bill Shander, Carlos Gaitan, Emily Kund, and Zoraya Cruz Bonilla, who were all incredibly helpful in running the interview process and selecting our proposed slate. As we go ahead and we look, there we go, to what the board looks like coming up, you'll see that there is a current 2021 board slide posted here. These are the folks who you've met today and include all of the board members that we've had. You can see that we have multiple people who are outgoing as their terms are ending, including people who filled a partial term like Amelia, and folks who applied to have an additional term, Jason and Erica Gunn from Education and Publications. The applications process was such that we brought in candidate applications through a written application process. The nominations committee shortlisted applicants for each role. Candidates were interviewed, and then candidates were selected. This is an illustrative schematic or graphic because, as you can see, our operations and events roles are actually still open. Throughout the applications process, we used a really structured approach to using different assessment tools for assessing the written applications and the interviews. And we worked to figure out what the best fit was for the people who are coming onto the board, who could really take on these roles and continue the great work that's happened through the foundation built by our current board. The proposed slate of candidates includes 4 key candidates and 4 of the open roles and 2 open positions. For Education Director, we've proposed that Erica Gunn continue on into a second term. She has started and only completed a 6-month kind of balance of a remaining term as Education Director, and has done an exceptional job of setting the stage for what can be done in the education role. Partnerships Director Alex Royston is an active community member from the Partnerships Committee and was very active in the development of the jobs board, as Julia shared earlier in this session. Programs Director Jill Brown. Jill has also been an active member of the Programs Committee, especially working on the annual survey, and was the author of the annual survey report this year. And finally, proposing an additional term for Publications Director for Jason Forrest, who has established and built out Nightingale, started to launch Nightingale Print, and wants to continue in that leadership role for an additional term. You'll see that we do have those 2 open roles, and so we would welcome folks to apply for those. You can learn more about our individual directors if you go to the nominations page of our website, where you can find more information about the focus of our different board of directors candidates. Erica, in her application and in her conversation about her vision for the role, talked more about establishing education standards and practice and continuing to guide people in learning new skills, finding common career paths, and collecting and sharing knowledge in different ways. For partnerships, Alex talked about her vision to build a foundational framework for choosing the best partners for our organization, growing our efforts in achieving funding, and establishing progressive paid partnerships beyond our current initiatives, which can allow us to continue to scale our work and become more sustainable. For Programs Director, Jill is focused on connecting members to different resources with supporting existing programs that we already have in play that Amy helped to establish with her committee, to facilitate the launch of the Nearly Complete Mentorship Program, which we've been framing out and working on this year, and to launch that in the coming year, expanding the annual survey challenge, and strengthening the bonds between DVS programs and the other data visualization committees so we can work more collaboratively together. And finally, Jason, focusing on continuing to build out Nightingale as a platform for new and current writers that would allow him to operationalize many of these ambitious plans, including the launch of our first print Nightingale edition. And again, you can find more on our nominations page on the website. Everything you need to know is there, all about who our different candidates are, as well as the ballot for any of you who are paid members of DVS, as you are eligible to vote on the annual slate that is proposed. So this is what the new 2022 Board of Directors looks like in terms of having 2 vacant roles and 4 incoming proposed new directors. The slate ballot that is available is posted inside the member space environment for our paid dues-paying DVS members. You can find that information over again on the nominations page, which we'll post a link to in the comments box. But you can go ahead and you can click on and you can vote up or down on the slate as a whole. You do have to confirm or decline the entire slate. If you decline the slate, please let us know which role you are objecting to or roles, because if the slate does not pass, our nominations committee will reconvene and identify how to change the slate and put it forward towards another vote. Voting will be open until Friday, January 28th. So it'll be open for 48 hours basically, and a little bit more because we'll go till the end of the day Friday following this meeting and the conclusion of this meeting. With that, I want to go ahead and turn over the last piece of updates to Amelia for a quick financial update before I wrap us up with some closing remarks and themes for the year. So let me go ahead and bring Amelia back here onto the stage.
Thanks, Amanda. If you go to the next slide, please. So this just gives you a sense of where we started and where we ended up for 2021. As you can see, we had considerable revenue growth, which has enabled us to bring on a lot more paid support and take on new projects. So that's very exciting. Next slide, please. Whereas in 2020, our primary income source was a partnership with Medium. In 2021, our primary income sources were Outlier ticket sales, paid membership dues, and Nightingale print, as well as sponsorships for Outlier. Those sources, in addition to other corporate and individual donors and selling some DVS swag, will bring us to over $200,000 US in income for 2021. Next slide, please. In terms of expenses, the amounts certainly increased for 2021, but the categories stayed largely the same. So our expenses are likely to get more complex in 2022 as Nightingale goes to print and we launch other initiatives. But as you can see here, we spent quite a bit on software as a service, things like our membership platform, the new Nightingale DVS website, the jobs board, all of our regular kind of administrative software, paid support in terms of our Outlier director, our wonderful comms manager, Jane. I believe Amanda will get more into who's on our team in a few minutes. So suffice to say, that was one of our main expenses in 2021 as well. Nightingale editors and contributors. And then I just wanted to highlight here too that our biggest expense is not actually in money, it's in donated time. In 2020, this $160,000 estimate, this was a conservative estimate of our volunteer hours from 2020. We need to do this for 2021 as well. I suspect it will actually be much larger, but that is just to say thank you to all of the folks who do generously donate their time to grow this community. Next slide, please. And so as you saw, this community donates hundreds of thousands of dollars worth in time, and multiply that by 3 years to get DVS where it is today. In 2021, we began investing more in contractor support to bolster our core functions that had largely been volunteer run in the past. that which Amanda will walk through in more detail. We will continue to bring on more of those kinds of paid roles in 2022 to support those core functions and programming so that we can continue to grow sustainably. And so I will just leave you with the thought that we are actively seeking operational funding partners, grants, and other approaches to continue to build a more sustainable base of resources. So if you have any thoughts on that or want to connect us with someone, please reach out, operations@datavisualizationsociety.org. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amelia, and for all of your work and labor and time that's gone into getting us to the place that we are, taking care of those financials and making sure that we're in good shape. And I love the honesty around kind of the volunteer commitment piece. I know that's one of the things our accountant said we needed to account for because that donated time is worth a ton to us as an organization. So a huge thank you to all of our various different committee members, volunteer board members, advisory council members, and others who have given their time to DVS this year. So as we go ahead and we look towards the end of our AGM, I want to go ahead and I want to share a couple of closing remarks and to talk a little bit about what we've achieved this year and where we're going in the future. What does 2022 look like for DVS and how are we going to continue to grow as an organization? As we think about what 2021 looked like, you've heard a lot of highlights from our different directors this year, talking about everything from paid membership to Outlier to Nightingale print to the State of the Industry survey, which I somehow listed here twice. I'm just that excited about it. I meant, I think, to say the State of the Industry survey report, which was a new feature that we have this year. And as we focus this year, we wanted to understand our members more. We wanted to engage with our members, and we wanted to build towards scalability and sustainability as an organization. We worked to understand our members by doing more engagement through Slack, through early career connects, through the annual State of the Industry survey. We engaged our members in different and new ways, and we found ways to build towards scalability and sustainability by adding additional paid support, finding new opportunities for revenue to support that work, and looking for ways to create repeatable processes within our team and our organization. We know that one of the things that we've heard from folks is that having more recurrent, repeatable opportunities to get engaged with and engage with the DVS programming is really important to you in terms of having a cadence and a pattern for when different events and things happen. And I think Simran hit it on the head when she said earlier in her remarks that the goal isn't to have every single program that we put on be perfect, but rather to have more engagement opportunities for all of you to get involved. You may have seen that we've launched a new Slack channel that allows you to have a quick kind of head-to-head team up to meet someone new from the community every couple of weeks. And those kind of small informal ways to connect folks. Following along, I think a lot of the ways in which we think about creating connections and collision points within Outlier, which I think is a good way for us to think as we grow forward as an organization. As we look forward to 2022, we've also talked about big goals there. Topical interest groups, the State of the Industry survey, the 2022 Outlier coming up next week, the mentorship program, career portraits, new video series, Nightingale. There's a lot that's happening within DVS that I'm really proud of in the sense of what our organization has done. And more importantly, I think how we've supported the data visualization community writ large. We don't limit ourselves to engaging and supporting and interacting with our members. We instead focus on being the kind of professional society and professional home that provides valuable content and information through Nightingale, but also through engagement on our social media channels, which Richard showed us in terms of the growth that we've had over time. Providing valuable video content people can learn from and be exposed to new experts through the Outlier videos, the fireside chats, and other series that we promote on our YouTube channels. And as we look forward to 2022, there are a couple of key goals that we have in terms of what we want to achieve and we want to do. We want to make sure that we're creating more space for you as members to step up and get to know each other, to connect with people who have similar shared resources through these topical interest groups. As the world perhaps starts to open up a little bit again, we hope, being able to get together in person with folks who are geographically co-located or close by. And we've got some exciting announcements about other big things happening for DVS in 2022 that we'll be sharing at the State of the Industry session that we're hosting on Friday at Outlier. So I hope you'll join us live for some of those big conversations and big announcements about the state of the industry in data visualization and what the industry looks like as a whole. As we continue to think forward towards 2022, we want to invest in building experiences, resources, and opportunities that support the growth of the data visualization profession and create delightful experiences for our members to strengthen our community. Whenever someone brings a new idea to DVS that I hear about, one of my first questions in my head is, are we uniquely positioned as a professional society dedicated to data visualization to take this on or build this program or have this platform? Or is this an area where we should be collaborating with existing community platforms and resources and learning tools? And so we are always open to and interested in having those conversations about how we can support and amplify the great things already happening in the data visualization community through our platforms, and how we think about the ways that we support data visualization as a profession that continues to grow. And as I think about what that functionally means, looking from 2021 to 22, how we got there and how this organization has grown since 2019 when we launched, I think a lot about the ways in which our team has grown. So in 2019, in February, like that's less than 3 years ago, there were 3 people working on DVS, our 3 founders who had spent time even before then to get the infrastructure started off with the website, the Google sign-up form, everything else. By April or May, there were 6 of us who had stepped up to starting to help out and to help to shape what the organization would look like going forward and to establish things like bylaws, like Julia mentioned. By July, we had appointed our first board of 12 people. And later that year, we brought in our first paid team member in the form of the Nightingale managing editor. As we look forward, though, to these next years, in 2020, we still had that volunteer board, but then we added additional paid support, some paid copy editors. We paid for a DEI advisor to come support us as we framed out our nominations process, brought on paid video editors, did Outlier branding. We started to invest some of the money that we had from Patreon and from our initial Medium partnership in the organization and in people's time and labor in the ways that they were supporting us. And as we continue to look forward and think about the ways in which the organization has grown, we're going to need to have more of that continued support. In 2021, we had a much longer list and a dozen plus, I'm sure I've missed a couple, different paid support resources who have come on to go ahead and help us achieve some of the big goals that we have. An Outlier director who's a dedicated paid team member, a comms manager who's helping with the day-to-day, continuing with our managing editor. And I think that highlighting these roles and the fact that these roles are helping us go further and go farther and go faster is really important, because part of my goal as we look towards the coming year, and part of my goal in my term as the executive director when I came in, is to find ways to move us towards having a dedicated core team of people who are full-time dedicated to DVS as their core job and the thing they're focused on day by day, such that our board can truly become more of a governing and strategic body. And we have those core team members who are making sure the day-to-day things are happening to keep our members engaged and make sure that we're continuing to support the growth of the DVS, the data visualization profession. I want to make sure I'm also pointing to the fact that these dots on a screen are not the only people who have been involved. We've been supported by dozens of committee members, our advisory council, and others who have helped to build and grow Data Visualization Society to where we are today. As we look to 2022, we also want to continue to engage more paid team members to create and deliver programming for our members. Again, also recognizing the time and labor that goes into that. And we want to actively work to build a more diverse leadership pipeline that represents our membership. We have our 2 open roles right now that we'd welcome folks to apply for if you have interest or availability and you're eligible as a paid member of DVS. But we also want to think about how we build that leadership pipeline in the future. Part of that is through creating more informal leadership roles for folks. I think that one of my most exciting kind of things in my head around the growth of the topical interest groups and local chapters is the idea that we can create more space for DVS members to step up into these leadership roles. We shouldn't be a command and control kind of organization. We want to be led by the needs and wants of our community members. And so you'll see us actively reaching out and looking for more of your input and seeking people who want to step into these different leadership roles in the coming year. As we think about that, though, we also want to think about the more formal process of nominations. So as you'll see here, there are 3 key actions that we're taking as an organization towards building our more diverse leadership pipeline that has individuals who are from different countries and continents that may be less represented or from underrepresented groups. For 2023, we will be kicking off the nominations committee in April of this year. Rather than waiting until the final quarter of the year to spin up the nominations committee and kick off the nominations process, which is lengthy and involved, I recognize that. We want to give the committee the time to operate for a full 9 months, which allows them to not only focus on the actual recruitment and the application process and selecting a slate, but also to actually actively spend time working on identifying potential new leaders within the organization and helping to build that leadership pipeline. Second, we're focusing on recruiting members to the DVS DEIB committee who can play an active role in building an inclusive community and leadership team and giving a broader voice to those individuals as they're influencing what some of our programming decisions or approaches are. And so if you're interested in stepping up and being part of that committee, please feel free to reach out to KG or reach out to me directly and I can put you in touch. Last, we want to explore and develop plans to address any barriers that interested members face around applying for leadership roles. And in that sense, thinking through and better understanding what some of the barriers are in terms of just having some imposter syndrome about stepping onto a board like this, or in terms of other barriers, for example, financial barriers due to the fact that these are volunteer roles. And we recognize that they are roles that take a lot of time. So as we look forward, I think there are lots of ways that we are working to be both self-aware and forward-thinking around the ways we build a more diverse and inclusive leadership pipeline. At the same time, I am so excited that this year we are inviting forward a slate of candidates who come from people who have been heavily involved in DVS, including committee members who are now stepping up into leadership roles. This provides the kind of continuity for the organization that I think will be really valuable to continue some of the initiatives that have started. With roles turning over every 2 years, with the opportunity for folks to slate for a second term if they so choose, we do have to think about the ways in which we create continuity for the organization to ensure that we keep our different initiatives and plans moving forward. That's part of our reason for having the board turnover only halfway each year. So looking forward, how can you support DVS as an organization? You can subscribe to our social media. We love having broad social media reach and ways to get involved. I love to see people who are joining a committee or wanting to share their expertise. And we're looking for ways for people to sponsor events and programming, partnerships, and participate in community activities. As we go ahead and look at what the various different ways you can get involved are, you can get involved in small, everyday kind of ways, participating on the community Slack, or get involved in big ways by stepping up into leadership roles. And we welcome anyone who has any questions or suggestions for us on how we continue to build that community. And finally, I would hate to end this talk without saying forthright that thank you, the data visualization practitioners and folks listening to us today, for being part of our community and part of DVS. Without you, we would not have DVS, and data visualization wouldn't be where it is today as a discipline. And so thank you to everyone who's been involved. While you may see different people talking today from the perspective of board members, none of us could do the work that we do without the input, feedback, insights, and ideas that we hear from all of you. If you have feedback for us, whether it's ideas for things we could be doing better and improving upon, or ideas for different programs we could have in the future, I think that there are great opportunities to engage with any of the board members who would love to hear it. Feedback for us is a gift because it helps us craft and drive our programming towards the things that our community needs. And I see one comment coming in about looking at one of the things we haven't delivered on over the course of the past year, which is to update our DVS badges. For anyone who actually joined us at the very beginning and got their own custom DVS overlapping triangles badge about your DataVis skills, I'm guessing that your skills have probably changed in the last 3 years. So we'll take that as a follow-up item and see if we can work on updating those DVS badges and creating a space for folks to get those updated badges. With that, that wraps up our presentation for the day. I know a few of our board members had to leave, but I'd love to welcome back my other board members to wave us off as we go ahead and we wrap up our conversation today. A huge thanks to everyone who's here. The big, I think, call to action right now, if you haven't done it yet, is to block your calendar for next Friday and Saturday, to go ahead and buy your Outlier ticket at outlierconf.com. It's going to be incredible. We've got the new platform and Sparkle Spaces. We've got ways you can get involved. We've got all kinds of good things happening. So make sure to go buy your Outlier ticket. And if you are a DVS member and you are a DVS paid member, we really hope that you will take some time to consider and learn more about our slate of candidates that we've put forward for terms and take the time to cast your ballot. We really do want to see that this is a board slate that you're excited about and excited to see. So you can find everything you need on our nominations page at datavisualizationsociety.org. With that, thank you so much for all of your time, for being part of this meeting today, for those of us who joined us for a full 90 minutes. And with that, we will wave off and say farewell to everyone. Thank you again from all corners of the world and from your DVS board. And we will hopefully see you at Outlier on Friday of next week.